Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight, fighting words from the usually mild-mannered President Marcos as he responds to criticism of lame duck governance, from cabinet revamp to his still undelivered campaign promise of 20 pesos per kilo rice for all.
On the security and law enforcement front, the AFP is downplaying reports of a brewing coup, while the PNP is getting ready for its new chief.
And most private hospitals have increased rates by as much as 15%. These medical institutions say that their operations stand to be disrupted if the hikes are not implemented.
Ba't ko gagawin yun? At wala sa ugali ko yung tinatakbuhan ng problema. No. That's not how reconciliation works.
Before flying back home from the ASEAN summit in Malaysia, President Bongbong Marcos defends his cabinet's revamp, saying it's not for mere optics. He also rejects calls for him to step down. Maricel Halili has tonight's big story.
I will resign?
Yeah, that's what they want.
Ba't ko gagawin yun? At wala sa ugali ko yung tinatakbuhan ng problema. So, what good will that do?
This was President Marcos's reply to critics who want him to step down, including his former executive secretary, Vic Rodriguez, who claimed the chief executive is the problem, not government officials whom the palace asked to resign. The so-called Great Cabinet revamp is not for show, according to PBBM.
You know, siguro by now, you know, I don't do things pang optics. If there is a problem, I like to fix it. So that's what we are doing. So expect us to be doing a rigorous performance review, not only at the cabinet level, but even deeper.
The president was also seemingly irritated when asked about the impending impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
How many times do I have to say that? I didn't want impeachment. Lahat ng kakampi ko sa Kongreso hindi nag-file ng impeachment complaint. Yung mga nag-file ng impeachment complaint, hindi mo masasabing kaya kong utusan o pagsabihan na ito yung gagawin mo.
Still, President Marcos is open to making peace with Sara and the rest of the Dutertes, but without conditions. Allies of the family earlier asked Marcos to bring former President Digong back home if he's really sincere with his offer of reconciliation.
No. That's not how reconciliation works.
Okay.
You don't put conditions to reconcile. If you're sincere, you want to reconcile, let's sit in front of you. Ano ba talaga problema? Paano nangyari ito? Tanggalin natin ang problema. Pero isasabihin mo, hindi ako makikipag-usap hanggang ibigay mo sa akin ito. Wala pupuntahan na.
Yeah, and that condition
tapos na. That's not reconciliation.
Yes. Bring SPRD home na po.
That's not even a negotiation. That's demanding. Those are setting conditions. That, you know... So, ano sasagutin ng kabila? Etong gagawin mo, sasagutin mo, hindi, gagawin ko yan kung gawin mo naman ito. Wala nang pupuntahan yun.
This statement comes after a Pulse Asia survey showed Marcos Jr. getting only a 32% trust rating compared to the VP score of 50%.
Well, again, let's look at other surveys before we act. Know your source. That's always a imperfect information makes you make imperfect decisions. The more perfect your information, the more perfect your decision will be. That is one source of information, and you have to understand where it's actually coming from.
For now, the president says he has his mind on other more pressing issues. Among them, bringing down the price of rice to 20 pesos per kilo, one of his campaign promises back in 2022, something he promises to deliver on.
Watch me sustain it. And then we'll talk in May of 2028. Oh, natuloy ba o hindi? We found a way. We found a way to do it.
The chief executive's pronouncements all came from a press briefing before he flew back to the Philippines. He was recently in a 2-day trip to Malaysia for the 46th ASEAN Summit. There, he made another push for a binding code of conduct for the South China Sea. On the sidelines, he also spoke to Chinese Premier Li Qiang. There was no mention of the maritime dispute between Manila and Beijing. The informal discussion centered on reciprocal tariffs of the United States.
Tinanong ko lang sa kanya, sabi, I just want, what is the Chinese perspective of this new unilateral tariff schedule? And he says, well, you know, Mr. Trump has his own, seems to have his own idea, but we certainly do not want this to continue. It's not good for everyone.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
While the president was in Malaysia, his vice president and sister were overseas too. Vice President Sara Duterte and Amy Marcos, who won a fresh term as senator, were in Qatar. In photos released by the office of the vice president, Duterte was seen with Marcos, her mother Elizabeth Zimmerman, and members of the Filipino community at the Villaggio Mall food court in Doha. Senator Marcos said she was invited by the vice president to join the trip, meant as a meetup with OFWs. From Qatar, Sara's party will fly to the Netherlands to visit her detained father, former President Digong. It's not clear if Senator Marcos will join that trip as well. While in The Hague, VP Duterte will be with Filipino groups outside the International Criminal Court on May 31, which happens to be her birthday. The Vice President will return to the Philippines on June 4, or 2 days after her impeachment trial at the Senate begins.
Meantime, the Armed Forces Chief is addressing reports of rumblings within the ranks. AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Browner was quick to dismiss the rumors, assuring that as long as he's in command, no coup will happen, and not on his watch. He maintains that the Philippine military remains strong, professional, and firmly loyal to the chain of command and the Constitution. Browner also called out those who continue to stir discord and disinformation in institutions built to protect and serve the public. He also encouraged the public to be more discerning when faced with baseless speculations and other forms of disinformation. Talks of internal unrest in the AFP have been swirling since the ICC arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte back in March. Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has finally picked the next chief of the Philippine National Police, though he still refused to divulge who his choice is. The chief executive made the announcement on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit in Malaysia, which he attended.
The new chief PNP is a very senior officer in the PNP. He knows the situation. And I will actually tell them, carry on what you are doing. Because we have very good statistics concerning crime.
At this point, let's bring in someone who has his ear on the ground and knows a lot of inside information than we do. Well, welcome back to The Big Story. Ronald Llamas, political pundit and, well, some would call you a political heckler. First of all, something really unusual happened late this afternoon. There was supposed to be a press briefing by Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire, but it didn't happen. What do you make of that?
Well, good evening, Tess, Sean, Pauline. Marami kasing mga surprises itong past few days eh. Kaya hindi bago yung surprise this afternoon dahil after nila mag-announce na 168 na mga members ng mga GOCC ang hiningan din ng 40 resignation at yung inaasahan sana na second batch ng mga marirevamp na dapat nilabas today ay biglang nawala yung press conference na sana ay dun yata i-announce o i-clarify itong mga pronouncement na ito. Well, baka inaayos pa nila yung messaging. No? Baka inaayos pa nila yung narrative. Dahil yung nakaraang revamp, medyo medyo kinulang yung kwento. Baka kailangan nilang gawing mas effective yung gagawin nila ngayon, no? Aside dun sa sino ba talaga yung marirevamp? Dahil hindi kasi pwedeng kanyan dahan-dahan. Dapat kasi sa cabinet revamp, isang buhos na lang Para wala nang puwang o wala nang espasyo para sa mga other pressures to pain or to kick out secretaries. No? Kaya tingin ko marami pa silang inaayos marami pang loose ends. Kaya hindi natuloy yung press con.
But it looks like they're in disarray. Parang ganun ang appearance. Di ba parang ang gulo, walang plano, hindi pa planchado when they had so much time from the previous announcement.
Yeah. Well, baka nalilito rin sila dahil hindi nila sigurado kung ano yung gagawin ng presidente o kung ano sasabihin. Halimbawa, nung interview niya kay Tonying, parang nag-offer siya ng feelers Parang nag-offer siya ng hand of reconciliation. Pero parang hindi na hindi na practical yon dahil too much assassination threats, too much ICC arrests under the bridge para maging feasible yung any feelers for reconciliation. Kaya nung gumawa ng condition yung mga Duterte na ibalik si Digong as a condition, talagang nag-react si Presidente. Pero from the very start, talaga namang wala nang kinabukasan yun So may mga ganong klaseng mga signals na nalilito mismo yung kanyang mga kasama at mga kaalyado. Halimbawa, itong statement sa impeachment, parang what was that for? Hindi na kailangan yun dahil nakasalang na yung impeachment Trial na So pag sinabi niya na ayaw niya makialam sa legislative, no, like yung Congress at saka Senate, tapos na yan sa Congress Yung sa Senate, hindi na legislative yan Trial court na yan At as a trial court, ang magiging labanan dyan for or against acquittal. Pag naglabas ka ng statement katulad ng ginawa niya sa ASEAN na ayaw naman talaga niya yan, in a way, nakakatulong yun dun sa mga pro-acquittal. Nakakatulong yun sa mga Duterte. So, medyo nakakagulo, kahit sa akin, na nag-observe from a distance, nakakagulo. Ano ba talaga yung gusto ng Presidente? Lalo na siguro yung mga nandun sa loob ng Malacanang. Lalo na siguro yung nasa loob ng kanyang koalisyon. Na baka naguguluhan sila. Ano ba yung strategy? Ano ba yung strategy para dito? Dahil they're already in the middle of a war Sabi ko nga kaninang umaga sa isang interview. So in the middle of the war, yung confusion ng iyong sariling mga troops, ng iyong mga sundalo, papabor sa iyong kalaban. No? So kailangan nilang they have to get their act together. Kung hindi, matatalo sila dito sa existential na gera na ito. Itong survival battle na kinakaharap nila ngayon.
Pero Ronald, I wanted to get your thoughts or kung baka may narinig ka about yun nga, 'di ba? Pinag-uusapan kahapon yung LP members na sumama na sa supermajority pero nung kinausap si Erin Tanyada na acting president ng LP, hindi pa naman daw sila nagko-commit kasi wala pa si Senator Kiko at nasa US pa. A lot of people are saying dapat yung focus is nasa House of Representatives kasi andun yung gulo. Meron pa bang pag-asa na may pagbabago? Kasi nag-announce sila na may supermajority and everyone's in support of the current speaker. What could happen para mabago yun?
Well, isang confusing yan dahil yung si Toby Chanco, yung campaign manager ng Alyansa, ay bumanat na siya kahit hindi pa binabanggit yung pangalan kay Speaker Martin Romualdez. Dahil alam naman ng lahat na si Speaker yung pinaka-influential doon sa nangyaring impeachment na 250 to 260 congressmen yung bumoto to impeach the Vice President. So yung statement na yun ni Toby Chanco ay in a way a jibe, an attack kay Speaker Martin Romualdez. At lumalabas din yung chismis na interesado rin si Toby Chanco to be Speaker. So yung statement ni Presidente about impeachment, parang pinapaboran si Toby Chanco. Parang, no? So nakakadagdag yan sa confusion dahil sa July, pipili ng bagong Speaker at bagong Senate President. So, baka, kaya nga sinasabi ko kanina, baka yung mga sarili niyang tao nalilito. Dahil imminente yung pagpapalit o pagre-retain ng Speaker ng Congress. Mahalaga yung Congress, lalo na ngayon, may binabanggit si Vice President Sara na gusto niyang ipa-impeach yung presidente. Diyan magsisimula ang impeachment. So, whoever controls Congress can prevent or support an impeachment. No? So, siguro yun ang hinahanap ng mga tao niya. Yung leadership at saka yung plano, yung strategy. Dahil parang in limbo yung iba in limbo yung iba nakausap ko na, ano bang gagawin namin? No? Ano bang gagawin namin?
Do you think may chance talaga na umatake si VP at mag-file ng impeachment laban kay Presidente?
Well, kung after nitong midterm disaster ng alyansa, tapos itong pababa na approval ratings ng gobyerno at ni Presidente, at itong parang kawalan ng strategy, gagamitin niya ng mga Duterte to create the momentum going into 2028. Para ma-create ang momentum na yan, kailangan nilang gawing early lame duck si President Bongbong Marcos. No? Ang ibig sabihin ng early lame duck, dahan-dahan lang lumilipat sa kanila yung mga tao ni PBBM dahil sila yung may fighting chance for 2028. So ganun yung kanilang agenda. Kaya hindi, kung magiging lame duck si PBBM, hindi malayo yung possibility na kumilos ang mga Duterte at yung mga magsisimulang mag-gravitate sa kanila going into 2028 for an impeachment. No? Baka hindi naman bail threat yung sinasabi ni Vice President Sara. Kung ang feeling nila ay nagiging lame duck president si PBBM at kung magkaroon ng free fall yung kanyang approval rating. Na hindi ko pa naman nakikita at this point. Pero kung sakaling mangyari yon, hindi malayo yung kanilang threat to impeach PBBM.
Yung visuals nga today sa Doha, dinumog si VP Sara. Parang sunod-sunod yung, kumbaga, nakakaangat sila sa communication.
Tama. Dahil kalahati nito, Ses, alam mo naman, is messaging Diba? Kaya nga, nung napanood ko yung kanyang interview kay Tonying, parang ang tingin ko ay sinisimulan niyang i-reset yung kanyang messaging. Pero hindi naman sapat yung messaging lang Hindi naman sapat yung form lang. Kaya yung sumunod doon yung cabinet revamp, which is part of the substance ng isang set. Yung cabinet revamp ay reset in terms of substance. Yung interview niya parang reset in terms of messaging. Pero sa ngayon, nabitin yung revamp. Tapos yung messaging parang
they're bungling it. But they're bungling this reset. It's a bungled attempt.
Yun yung problema. If they don't get their act together, ima-maximize ito ng kanilang mga kalaban. Dahil inuulit ko, nasa gitna na sila ng gera A survival war. So, kaunting pagkakamali mo, kaunting confusion, gagamitin ng kalaban mo. No? And at this point, medyo confusing yung kanilang mga kondukta at yung kanilang mga statements. No? Hindi pa naman too late, pero magayos sila. Magayos sila tomorrow. No?
Well, speaking of that cabinet revamp, Ronald, kanina nabanggit mo sa Storycon that DMW Secretary Cacdac, Hans Cacdac, Labor Secretary Laguesma, pati na rin si Sojen Guevara could be possibly on their way out. And isa sa mga rason doon, sabi mo nga, is kunwari si Secretary Cacdac, he's a silent worker. Is that not enough anymore? Ang hinahanap na ba ng presidente is someone very vocal, someone very visible in the final 3 years of his term?
Well, una, unless it happens, it never happened. No? Yung revamp na yan. Ikalawa, ay hindi ko sure kung ano yung hinahanap ng presidente. Paano? Ang sabi lang kasi ni Executive Secretary Bersamin, kung bakit tatanggalin itong mga nasa chopping block ay dahil either inefficient or corrupt. Pero sinabi rin ni E.S. Bersamin, pero pwede silang mailipat sa ibang posisyon. So medyo weird yung statement na yon. Kaya hindi ko rin sigurado ano bang gusto ng Malacanang, ano bang gusto ng presidente. No, parang iba yung naghahalo Naghahalo yung iba't ibang mga bagay. Kaya ang lumalabas na chismis ay itong tatlo ay nasa chopping block. No? Pero until it happens, it never happened. Tapos marami ring mga iba na parang marami mga criticism, yung based sa kanilang sariling mga targets as cabinet secretaries, di ba? Halimbawa, yung tourism department, may target yan na bumalik sa pre-pandemic level na 8 million, pero ngayon around 5 million lang. Kaya natanggal si Acusar, Secretary Acusar, dahil yung kanyang promisa ay 3 million houses sa midterm, ang napagawa lang ay 240,000, so nasibak siya. No? At yung kay Manalo, baka ang tingin kay Manalo, not as aggressive against China, kaya natanggal siya. So may element kasi na ingay, kailangan nasa kalsada ka defending the president. May element ng output, ano ba yung sinet mong mga targets. Tapos may element din ng loyalty. Ikaw ba ay loyal sa presidente? Halimbawa si Solgen Guevara, parang kulang yung kanyang loyalty dahil ayaw yung i-represent yung gobyerno eh. Yun ang trabaho ng Solgen. So tingin ko yan yung mga tatlong kombinasyon dito sa revamp na ito. Pero dahil nga medyo confusing yung mga statements, at this point hindi ko na sigurado kung ano yung magiging basihan para sa revamp.
Well, 168 GOCCs have also been asked to submit their courtesy resignations. What do you make of that, Ronald?
Well, baka bahagi yan ng hindi masaya yung presidente sa performance nito mga GOCC na ito, or baka meron din siyang iniisip na mga ipapalit. Pero medyo marami yun, 168. No? Kaya usually kasi pag nagtatanggal ka, meron ka rin iniisip na ipapalit, no? Diyan sa mga yan. Bagaman dahil courtesy resignation yan, pwede rin naman na marami diyan ay hindi matanggal. Halimbawa, di ba, maalala nyo, humingi ng courtesy resignation si Secretary Abalos nung siya ay head ng DILG sa lahat ng officers ng Philippine National Police. Pero medyo binawi yung ganung klaseng courtesy resignation. Kaya baka ganun din ang mangyari dito, no, sa courtesy resignation na medyo hindi ganun kalinaw ano ba yung layunin at saan ba talaga dadalhin. Dahil inuulit ko, pag nag-call ka ng revamp, ay yan ay isang reset. Inaamin mo na meron kang pagkukulang, meron kang pagkakamali, pero gusto mong ayusin. No? Yun yung purpose nun eh. So, saan pa nila dadalhin ito? Itong semi-cabinet revamp. Semi dahil...
Frigodon. More of Frigodon siya so far.
Hindi ba posible na may Duterte ally na ilagay sa GOCC man or sa cabinet man na yung sinasabing
Duda ako ron.
reconciliation?
Talaga? Or
Duda
pink
ako,
or
Seth,
yellow?
dahil
Pink or yellow?
Dahil patay na patay na kasi yung reconciliation. Actually, the first cabinet revamp dapat nangyari nung nawasak yung unity team. Yun yung una dapat na cabinet revamp. No? Ikalawa ay yung pagsimulang pagbaba ng kanyang approval rating dahil dun sa controversy sa budget. Dahil yun yung isang turning point dito sa battle of narratives, dito sa battle of messaging. At ikatlo, itong midterm. So medyo long overdue na itong revamp na ito. Ang problema, at this point, hindi malinaw sa akin yung saan dadalhin ngayon itong revamp na ito. Saan dadalhin ito? Sino yung mga ipapalit? Paano yung ipapalit mo ay nakasalalay doon sa ano bang gusto mong gawin? Ano ba yung strategy mo? Ano ba yung direction? Yung mga ipapalit ay secondary lang eh. No? Yung ipapalit ay batay doon sa ano ba talaga ang gusto mong mangyari sa iyong gobyerno. Okay. Anong gusto mo? Yun yung dapat linawin ng presidente.
All right. That's very clear from you. Ngayon, isang abangan ang susunod na kabanata dahil sabi ay bukas ang press conference. Oo. And you're expecting to be something meaty, yung ano bang ini-expect mo na nasasabi mo, tama si presidente. Ano?
A real cabinet revamp.
Okay.
Hindi lang yung musical chairs.
All
Hindi
right.
lang musical chairs, no? Dahil hanggang ngayon hindi ko maintindihan, tinanggal yung Secretary of Energy apparently dahil hindi niya nagawa na pababain yung presyo ng kuryente at malaking epekto niyan sa mga investors, pero nilagay naman siya sa Department of Environment. No? Kaya halimbawa yan nung kawalan ng clarity dito sa revamp. No? Sana hindi yan mangyari bukas.
Okay. Thank you so much. One News political pundit Ronald Llamas.
Moving on to other news, Arnie Teves' camp has filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus after the former congressman was taken for detention in Timor-Leste. A video posted by Teves' son Axel on Facebook showed the expelled lawmaker clinging on to his Portuguese lawyer as they were taken away by alleged immigration police. According to Axel, Arnie and his attorney were not presented with any documents nor given any explanation. The two are currently under custody of Timor-Leste's Interior Ministry. Our own Department of Justice said they were not aware of the details of the arrest. The DOJ, though, reiterates that, quote, the Philippines has been prepared to bring Mr. Teves home to face the charges against him since the time our request for his extradition was first granted. Only this was stalled when the decision was unexpectedly reversed. The Justice Department welcomes the renewed position of Timor-Leste, indicating that Teves should not remain in their territory. The Justice Department is awaiting word if Teves will be deported or extradited. But for Teves' lawyer in the Philippines, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, all efforts to bring his client back to the Philippines must be stopped.
Kung i-grant po yung writ, dadalhin po sa hukuman si Ginoong Teves at doon po ay kailangang makumbinsi ng mga authorities na umaresto kay Ginoong Teves kung bakit siya inaresto. What is the basis for his detention? At kung siya ay i-deport, what will be the basis for his deportation considering that, number one, extradition was already denied 2 times.
Congressman Teves, or former Congressman Teves, was one of those charged with the killing of former Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo and 9 others in 2023. Degamo's wife, Congresswoman Janice, believes that the arrest was due to Teves' status as an illegal alien. Mrs. Degamo says the former congressman has no more valid Philippine passport and is the subject of an international alert from the Interpol following the arrest warrant issued against him by the DOJ. She welcomes this development as a significant step toward justice.
Oh, it's time to take a quick break, but coming up, private hospitals have hiked their fees so they can maintain normal operations. We will discuss this further with PHAPI Chief Dr. Jose De Grano when the big story returns. Keep it here.
The big story is back with the MMDA finally releasing maps of the alternate routes for the EDSA rebuild. With just over 2 weeks to go, motorists are given 7 alternate northbound routes and 15 alternate southbound routes.
And here's one of the suggested northbound routes. If you are coming from Ross Boulevard and the NAIA Expressway or NAIA X, you may take Macapagal Boulevard to the NAIA Expressway. Exit at Terminal 3 and use Nichols Road to get to the East Service Road going to C5.
Now, for those heading southbound from Ortigas Avenue, the MMDA has mapped out several options. From EDSA, you may take a right at Ortigas Avenue towards Shaw Boulevard, which will lead you all the way to Quirino Avenue. From EDSA as well, you can take a left at Ortigas Avenue towards C5 Road. From there, take the East Service Road down to NAIA Expressway. For the full list of alternative routes, visit MMDA's social media pages.
Now here's a little something that many people may find very difficult to navigate. Most private hospitals have jacked up hospitalization rates by 10 to 15%. According to Dr. Jose Rene De Grano, the president of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, they needed the rate increase to be able to maintain normal operations. That's amid skyrocketing costs of supplies, medicine, equipment, and other overhead expenses. Level 2 and Level 3 hospitals are those that offer advance to the most comprehensive services and residency programs, even had to adjust rates by as much as 20%. Currently, PHAPI has 1,200 member hospitals across the country.
Now let's discuss this issue further with Dr. Jose Rene De Grano, President of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines Incorporated, or PHAPI. Good evening to you and welcome to the Big Story, Doc.
Good evening po sa inyo, ladies.
Well, first of all, does this have anything to do with the huge debt of the government to private hospitals?
Actually, not really po. It's most probably a reaction of the hospitals during the last half of the year 2024 nung magkaroon tayo ng inflation, ano? So talagang because of the increase in the prices of the goods or basic supplies in the hospitals, and even the exchange rate of the that we usually use dollars for buying equipment, and that is those are the reasons why talagang tumaas po ang mga hospitalization costs ng private hospitals.
By as much as 10 to 15% po?
Yes po. Kasi hindi lang yun, ano? If you will note for the past year, tumaas lalo na yung mga salaries ng ating mga nurses. Aside from the nurses, pati po yung mga ancillary workers natin, pharmacies, radtechs, medtechs, etc.
So bottom line, Dr. De Grano, ano lang talaga siya? Kumbaga inflation, yung forex na pag-depreciate ng peso.
More or less ganun po ang reaction po yan ng hospitals kasi if you'll note, wala naman po kaming subsidy galing sa government.
Paano yun makaka-affect dun sa mga PhilHealth members na magpapagamot sa private hospitals? Dr. De Grano, ganun pa rin ba yung, kasi di ba kakaakyat lang nila ng mga case rates nila or yung fixed price na ibibigay per illness. So, is that kind of commensurate to this price increase in private hospitals para kahit papano medyo managed pa rin yung costs?
Yes, actually, nangyari po. We have increased the prices, but then later on, siguro around the first quarter of the year, if you'll note, tumaas yung benefits, by around 90%. Yung benefits nila. So more or less, parang hindi masyado naramdaman ng mga patients natin na there was an increase. Kasi parang yung support value ng ating PhilHealth ay tumaas. So yung, although halos pareho pa rin yung out of pocket, hindi masyadong bumaba. From 47, siguro bumaba ng around 44 or 43% yung out of pocket ng ating mga pasyente.
Rin pala, tumaas din yung hospitalization insurance ko. Yung premium ko tumaas rin by 5 or 10% itong year. So, ganun din ba yung mga na-experience ng iba ninyong mga pasyente? From insurance?
Well, medyo totoo po yun. But when if you are, if you will note, tumaas po talaga ang benefits ng PhilHealth. And for the past several months, we will note also, the hospitals noted na mabilis po ang pagbabayad ng PhilHealth.
Well, with this increase, Doc, can we expect that premiums for insurances will also hike?
We don't know. Most probably, sa mga HMO po, ang mini-mention nyo.
Yes.
Most probably.
Tumaas nga po.
Tumaas yung sa'yo.
Oo, tumaas yung sa akin. Hospitalization
baka because you're older, no?
Hindi Tumataas na. Mahal na nga siya because I'm older.
Well, I'm medyo overdue sa aking premium. But, Doc, magkano ba ang utang ng DOH at ng PhilHealth sa private hospitals?
Well, if you will note po, yung tinasabi namin na MAIPIF, these are the medical assistants for indigent and financially incapacitated patients. Yan po ay may fund sa Department of Health. Okay. And these are because of the guarantee letters po. So, when I talked with Secretary Orbosa and Yusek Chong, they promised na they'll look into it. And so far, for the past 2 weeks na nakausap namin sila, medyo na-start na po nila magbayad. And then, so, yun ang no problem po with that. And then, PhilHealth naman po, as I mentioned, mabilis po ang payment nila for the past several months.
So, can you give us an update, Doc, kung ano na yung mga balanse na lang?
Oo nga, anong binabayad nila at
magkano na lang yung
magkano
utang?
na lang. But
actually, marami pa po. Meron pa rin po kami hinahabol sa PhilHealth. Pero unti-unti po yun. Ang sabi po ng ating bagong presidente, unti-unti natin aayusin yan. Meron pa rin po kasing pagkukulang nung time ng COVID. Medyo malaki pa rin po yun.
Magkano pero ito nga po exact figures? Kayo ha,
siguro-
dahil mag-i-increase kayo ng prices, ayaw nyo sabihin dahil baka pagbawalan kayo ng gobyerno. But it's unregulated. I mean, you can increase your prices when you want to, right? I mean, there's nothing
Of course,
stopping.
siyempre po, pero alam niyo naman po kung very competitive pa rin, ano? So, hindi kami pwedeng basta-basta mag-increase ng price, ano? Kawawa din po ang ating mga pasyente pagka gano'n ang ginawa namin.
Yeah, but we'd like the figures pa rin, Doc, if you don't.
Do you have them on hand, Doc? Nasa iyo ba? Kasi eto na lang, unahin natin yung sa MAIFIP, no, yung galing sa mga GL or guarantee letters from yung mga kandidatong hindi nanalo.
Dapat na kasi ipagbawal yan in the first place. You should not accept them.
Nasa 7 billion yung utang nila sa mga private hospitals pa. You're saying, oo, nabawasan na ito? Or may commitment from DOH na unti-unti?
Nagbayad na daw unti-unti. So magkano yung nabayad, Doc? Bakit
Sure
ngumingiti
po
lang
yung total
kayo?
yung 7 billion po total yun, ano. But then, doon po nung tanungin namin yung aming mga members, ilan pa ba, how much pa ba talaga ang kulang sa inyo sa MAIPIP? Ang nag-respond po is almost 1 billion na lang, ano. And then, when I talk to the secretary and the USEC, then they say they'll do something about it. And most probably naman, kasi nag-respond po sila sa amin na marirelease na yung funds within siguro the next 2 weeks, ano po. So hopefully,
Wow, that's a sudden
Masunod
rush
po yan.
of payment. Ayaw matanggal ni Secretary sa Cabinet Revamp.
yan po bago pa nag-announce po yan. Bago po nag-announce.
Pero yung sa PhilHealth, Dr. Degrano, ang tagal na niya, no? COVID pa natin to pinag-uusapan.
Yes.
So we know na Dr. Mercado has promised to pay and you have said that he has paid. So how much less na yung utang ngayon? Like less than 50%? 30% na lang?
Ganito po, yung gusto nilang bayaran right now is around 8 billion po yon. Yun po ay yung mga na-hold noong time na yon because of more than 60 days yung pag-file namin ng claim. And that's around 8 billion. We still have until September for that. Pero meron pa rin po siguro another, let's say, sabihin na natin around 8 to 10 billion. Yun po yung mga denied claims noong time ng COVID.
Well, Doc, itong 15%, is that already the ceiling or in the coming months and years, posibleng tumaas pa po yan depending on the economy?
Yes po. Right now, actually, hindi naman lahat po nagtaas ng gano'n. Pero a lot of them have increased by around 10% in the last year. Dito lang sa first quarter of the year, merong iba na nag-increase ng another 5% po. So, mga around 15%. Pero siyempre po, yung iba, halimbawa yung mga bigger hospitals na may mga malalaking mga services na ino-offer, minsan umabot po ng around 15 to 20%. And as long as sabi naman po ng mga pasyente, as long as they can offer better services, hindi naman usually nagrereklamo po sila.
Dapat suklian naman ng magandang serbisyo.
Yes, opo.
And this is across the board, kay emergency room ka, kay chemotherapy, dialysis, or surgery, lahat yon may increase talaga.
Usually po ganun. But then, alam niyo po, depende yon sa availability din ng mga services po sa kanila.
Bawal magkasakit.
Yes, tama po yun.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Dr. Jose Rene Degrano, President of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines. Marami pong salamat.
Right, moving on, Meralco capped 2024 with record-breaking numbers exceeding profit targets and supplying power to over 8 million customers. This was announced during the company's annual stockholders meeting on Tuesday, May 27. Meralco Chairman and CEO Manny V. Pangilinan acknowledged the recent 25-year franchise renewal for the utility company, saying that this has opened doors for long-term investments in renewable energy and infrastructure modernization.
Very grateful to the President for signing the bill, renewing the franchise. Of course, the Congress where the bill emanated, and to the Senate for approving the bill. So we're all very grateful, and it does give Meralco a longer runway so we can plan better, we can plan long-term for Meralco's future.
Beyond profits, Meralco said it strives to balance energy security, affordability, and sustainability for the benefit of every Filipino. With this, it shouldered the electric bills of consumers whose monthly consumption is 2,000 pesos or below, and also called for the removal of 10% VAT on electricity bills to ease costs for households and businesses.
Over 10% of every peso that the consumer pays, and ultimately these amounts, if collected, once collected, we remit to the government, the appropriate government agency, or the power generating company for the pass-through component of the taxes. So certainly, removing 10% from the total bill will have impact on both the household and certain businesses. However, obviously, given all of this, there may be macroeconomic and fiscal impact, right? Then eventually, there probably would be some trade-offs and other considerations.
Time to pause for another quick break, but when we return, motorists and pedestrians in a busy Makati intersection witnessed a most unusual incident. A person emerged from a sewer in broad daylight. That bizarre story is next when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back to The Big Story. Fresh off their wins in the midterm elections, the conveners of Mayors for Good Governance recently gathered to discuss a few things post-elections. These are Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, and Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong. In a Facebook post, the group said the three mayors reflected on takeaways from the recent midterm polls and discussed preparations for their last three-year term. They also shared plans on strengthening their coalition and enhancing capabilities of fellow mayors and LGUs. The group plans to continue their agenda of good governance in the name of accountability and transparency. And joining us tonight to talk more about this good governance campaign is one of its conveners, Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong. Good evening to you, Mayor Magalong. Welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Ses. Good evening, Pauline, and good evening, Sean. Good evening to our viewers. Thank you for having me.
Mayor, you've been openly critical of the House Speaker during the campaign, and hindi po kayo, I mean, you're still standing. They did not target you during the campaign?
Yes, they did. Tatlo pala yung kalaban ko rito sa Baguio, and apparently a lot of external money actually came into the city of Baguio. Kaya bumahang pera dito sa syudad ng Baguio.
To what would you attribute na nakatayo pa rin kayo ngayon?
Well, probably we have a different type of voters here in the city of Baguio, and one more thing is they believe in good governance. And that's the reason why. Until now, siguro, nahirapan din ako. Honestly, it was a tough fight.
Well, it looks like Speaker Romualdez will continue to lead the House of Representatives. What reforms would you like to see under his second term as Speaker? And kaya ba?
Well, may hirapan siguro dahil talagang he has control over many of the majority of the congressmen. So it's up to the president kung ano yung actions na gagawin nila. What is important is, probably for the departments to defy the speaker, especially when it comes to, intervening in the use of funds, especially funds coming from the DPWH, from DSWD, from DOL, and from DOH. Ito kasi yung mahilig nilang pakilaman itong mga pondo na ito. And at the same time, itong fund and yung mga scholarship from given out by TESDA at yung CHED.
Are you hopeful na may gagawin yung Malacanang? Because minsan si President, he tends to wash his hands parang, ay, trabaho yan ng House. And then now we have the cabinet revamp, no? So we're given a bit of hope na parang baka naman may italaga silang mga secretary na yun nga, ipaglalaban yung tama. Pero are you hopeful na magyayari ito, Mayor? What are your thoughts?
Right now, I'm still watching and observing. Hopefully, he will pick the right persons to occupy these critical positions, and someone who will become very, very independent and will only listen to the president and not listen to other political figures, especially influential figures from the Congress. Yun ang kailangan kasi natin eh. Dapat lang sila. Dapat they only take orders from one particular person, and that's from the president. Kung kaya nilang gawin yun, then probably there will be a big change.
Well, Mayor, in a recent interview, you said you weren't surprised with the results of the latest Pulse Asia survey, which indicated that former President Duterte enjoys quite high trust and approval ratings. Sinabi niyo po, dahil yan because of the deterioration of peace and order under this current administration. You were a former CIDG chief, Mayor, no? Ano po ba ang ginagawa ng administrasyon ngayon na kulang sa inyong pagtingin? What are they not doing right in terms of peace and order?
Well, I had the chance to being the Regional Peace and Order Council chairman. I asked our law enforcers, including feedback coming from our provincial LGUs, and of course, yung mga municipal. And basically, the assessment and evaluation is that tumataas yung cases natin, especially yung drugs. Alam mo kasi the reason why the former president is enjoying a high approval rating is because of the safety issue. People feel safer during his time. Unlike now na talagang nararamdaman nila na nagiging gumagrabe na naman ang drugs. Basically, it's all about drugs. Yun ang nakikita nila. Bumababa naman yung ibang mga cases, ibang index crimes like theft, homicide cases. But drugs talagang tumataas talagang drugs.
Going back to good governance, you recently met with fellow mayors Joy Belmonte and Vico Soto. What can 3 mayors do?
Well, alam mo, assess that 6 kami dating conveners eh. Kaya lang yung 2, isa doon hindi failed to be re-elected, si Mayor Ipe Remolyo. Pero very much committed pa rin siya to promote good governance. At si Mayor Romel Arnaldo of Kauswagan, nag-slide down siya sa vice mayor. So 4 na lang kami naiwan. We have Vico, we have Joy, ako naman, and of course si Mayor City Hataman. But we decided na we will just maintain yung 4 and probably designate 2 mayors from Visayas and 2 mayors from Mindanao and 4 mayors from Luzon to become some sort of a supervising M4GGs. Meaning they will be involved in the selection process. Kasi kailangan na namin mag-filter. Lumalabas na meron din kami mga issues with regards to the other mayors who joined the M4GG. Right now, we have about 202 mayors.
Tell us about this group of yours, no? Itong movement for good governance ninyo. Paano ba sumali? Mukhang walang pumapasa, Mayor, kasi 4 lang kayo. Yun yung unang question ko. 3 lang sila.
Tsaka anong magagawa?
Ano ba yung plano? Ano yung goal ninyo?
Kaliliit ninyo. I mean, you're a small group.
Yeah.
Naiyak naman ako doon sa observation ninyo, sa comment ninyo. 202 na kami. That's about 11.8% of the total mayors in the entire country. Yung convener lang is 4 na lang na yun naiiwan out of the 6. 4 na lang. Pero nakakagulat ka rin dito sa result ng elections. Sa mga re-electionist namin, 10 lang ang hindi na-elect. 10 lang. And we have 2 of our mayors who became governors, and 5 mayors became congressmen or congresswomen. So, magandang aming batting average. At talagang nakikita naman namin na people are starting to understand the real essence and meaning of good governance.
So, hindi pwede basta-basta sumali, Mayor. Kumbaga may screening committee, kunyari may bahid ka ng something, corruption, hindi ka pwedeng sumali sa grupo ninyo. How does that work?
Well, during the formative stage, we just accepted anyone who would like to manifested to join the M4GG. But, for almost a year, we decided to do some evaluation and assessment. Tumalabas din na marami rin kaming natanggap na hindi naman talaga karapat-dapat because we have been receiving some feedbacks coming from the communities and from fellow mayors as well. So we decided to come up with a sort of a defined parameter for us to be able to really determine who deserves to be become members of the M4GG. So gagawin namin yun during our General Assembly meeting.
So Mayor, the big question is, no, how do you plan to end corruption? Can that even be done?
This is sabi ko nga, there's no short-term solution. There will only be a long-term solution. And probably one of the best approaches is to start it with the young people. And at the same time, continue and sustain our efforts to raise awareness on good governance. And in fact, ngayon, pinopromote ka namin Open Government Partnership. What is Open Government Partnership? This is actually a global network of local governments who believe that, transparency, accountability, and strong citizens' participation promote growth and development. So ito yung mga pinopromote namin kaya we're working closely with the Department of Interior, local government, and DBM.
It's been said that the hope is really in local government. Kung walang nangyayari from national, it's a local government level where you can really implement substantive change.
Yeah, you're right, Ces. But we can only do so much. Ang laki pa rin ng impact ng national government sa amin because most of the time, we rely on funding from the national government. For example, kung ako, Baguio City is doing a great job with regards to the promotion of good governance, especially practicing good governance in local government, fighting corruption, talagang significant na yung reduction dito ng corruption. But kung sa national government, biglang nag-declare ang government na we're no longer capable of paying our debt, and we'll be impacted negatively, significantly for that matter. So talagang kailangan pagtulungan din natin Kailangan talagang elevate din namin sa national level, escalate talaga namin sa national level yung laban.
All right. I know you've said, Mayor, that in a previous interview that you don't plan to seek higher office. But we'd like to ask you again, kasi baka magpalit kayo ng isip, and usually ang sinasabi ng mga politiko, kasi merong clamor.
Yeah, I was even cautioned by Senator Lacson during one of our conversations. Sabi niya, alam mo Benji, sometimes you have to refrain from saying that kasi you'll never know nangyari yan sa akin na lagi kong sinasabi pa tapos people got back at me. So
are you gonna eat your words?
Probably I'll just have to stick to what I mentioned. Stick to what I mentioned na I have no plans whatsoever.
Probably.
That's true for now.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong.
Right, now from a fresh win to a fresh trip from the 46th ASEAN Summit in Malaysia, President Bongbong Marcos visited the Metro Pacific Fresh Farms in San Rafael, Bulacan, the country's largest greenhouse at 3.5 hectares. He was joined by Manny V. Pangilinan, chairman of Metro Pacific Investments Corporation, whose subsidiary operates the facility. Signal, which operates One News, is under the MVP group of companies. While in Bulacan, the president also visited the NFA warehouse in San Ildefonso to inspect the rice supply. Marcos Jr. also listened to farmers' complaints about how their palay was being sold for as low as 11.50 pesos per kilo in some areas. The president vowed to set a floor price for palay to protect farmers.
Pinag-aaralan namin, ginagaya namin kasi kagaya sa tobacco doon sa amin sa Ilocos, may floor price. So never bababa doon sa floor price. So pinag-aaralan namin magkaroon ng floor price para wala namang malugi.
And our big picture tonight was like a scene out of a movie. For those on social media, you can probably guess what I'm talking about. An individual was seen crawling out of a sewer in Makati, right on the corner of V.A. Rufino and Adelantado Streets on Monday, May 26. Photographer William Roberts shared that he was on his way home from the gym when a man first mistaken as a woman went straight for him. Roberts was ready to defend himself, but the mystery person later on ran past him. After the incident went viral, the Makati LGU fixed up the sewer and attached steel grates. The city's police force is also investigating the incident upon reports that the hole is possibly being used as a drug den. The local PNP is also still trying to identify the person caught emerging from the sewer. So confirmed, hindi siya ad or promotion for a show.
Real. Apparently, there was also this similar incident back in December. So,
Sa ibang
there's
city,
from
di
the
ba?
same sewer? No, from the same hole.
From that same sa
From the same
Adelantado
hole,
Rufino.
but it was a different man. So, this has
But
been
I
going
don't
on.
know. Diba, it's gonna be rainy season. Baka boarding up that sewer will exacerbate the
They didn't
flood.
board it up. Actually, kasi parang nag-crack na yung sidewalk. So, medyo lumaki yung hole. So, they put those yung bakal, which should serve as a strainer for trash also.
Okay.
Hoping for the best.
Hey, let's not say goodbye without mentioning our...
Oh, yes. National Flag Day!
Yes!
Okay, sige. Tingnan natin kung yung challenge natin sa next show ay nag-take up ng challenge. That's it.
May challenge pa tayo. Ay, sorry.
Oh, sige, sige.
Yung late night EDSA something
Yung
tour.
walk natin
Oo.
with the Move as One Coalition.
Yeah.
Sige, we'll follow up. But for tonight, on this hump day, that's it for the big story on this Wednesday evening.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Have a good night.